Hello, it's Dr. B again, this time with chapter 9 of the I Want to Be Me course. To be a little more formal, it's Dr. Madeline Boskowitz. Remember that I'm the author of I Want to Be Me, but I don't know who I am, the guidebook for teens and young adults. And I'm also the author of the workbook, the I Want to Be Me workbook, which includes preteens, teens, and young adults. And it includes preteens because it's important to be ready for the adolescent or the teen years and the work that needs to be done then. So last chapter we talked about your dreams, whether you've acknowledged them or not, whether you've decided to pursue a dream or not. But the dreams are there, and you may or may not be ready to take care of your dream, but that's okay. It's whatever you decide you want for yourself. So this chapter 9, is called Keep Moving Towards Your Goals, Avoid Being Distracted. This chapter is to show you what your life can look like if you decide to follow your dream with intention. This applies to you whether you are already committed to a dream, or you haven't decided what you want to do, or are not even sure you want to do the work of following a dream. Certainly can be scary to commit to a dream. So the first thing to do is to break it up into tiny steps. You need to identify goals and keep them in mind. And even if you have no dream, you certainly have goals for any moment of the day, most likely, or the week, or, you have things you want to do. These are goals. So, and one of the things I talk about in this chapter, which is very important, is about knowledge. And you're going to say, knowledge? Well, what is there about knowledge? Well, going to school or not going to school, but learning how to do things is absolutely essential. None of us are born knowing how to do anything besides nurse and maybe move your bowels, those instinctual, things that we're born with. But even walking and talking, we need to learn, and we learn by imitating others. And so everything that we do in life requires that we learn to do it. And this is very important. I have so many times teens have said to me, well, I don't need to know that. I'm never going to use it. But that is a very big mistake, because the more you know, the better off you are. And knowledge is like love. It's if you know a lot or somebody else knows a lot, it doesn't take anything away from you. There is enough knowledge to be had for everyone. And as a matter of fact, a lot of times people want to contribute to that knowledge. And there too, there is so much space. There is so little that we do know, that there is opportunity for every single person. So don't be discouraged and feel, well, you'll never get there. No, you don't know that. You absolutely do not know that. So it is important to give yourself a chance to have knowledge and to contribute to your own life, to your own goals, and to others as well. So one of the things that I talk about in this chapter is how important it is for you to honor your dreams and your goals, however small they are, or however large, and to make sure that others do the same. And so that it's extremely important to have relationships that are what we call constructive, that will help you reach your goals and be yourself. This book is called I Want to Be Me, but I don't know who I am. So this is a very common condition for teens and even young adults. And part of the teen work is to search for who you are and to make room for that person, and to insist that others do so as well. And what I mean by that is that you have to be careful with relationships. Relationships need to be good for you and good, and other persons need to be good not only for you but to you. And conversely, you need to be good for them and to them. So it's important to choose friends carefully, and I would say romantic friends even more carefully, because when we're in love, it's so easy to think that everything is going great and whatever is happening is just perfect. But even in this context, we need to watch that our needs are met, that they are not overlooked. There are many times, particularly for girls, but it happens with boys as well, where the person they're in love with demands that they are in the lead and it's their needs that count. So it's very important not to allow your needs to be overlooked. That doesn't mean that you can never be generous with the other person. It just means you need to keep your needs in mind. You know, many relationships don't work because one or both of the persons are not satisfied with how things are going. So it's very important to find a way to be satisfied in a relationship if that's possible. And a lot of relationships can grow and improve, but many of them also are not able to do so. And at that time, it's most important to go your own way to meet your own needs. When we don't meet our needs, we tend to get depressed and angry and hopeless, and then we don't take good care of ourselves. I think you've all known people who are depressed and angry, and they're doing things that are self-destructive. So it's very important to take care of yourself. As a fact, it's your primary job is to take care of yourself and your needs. Unless you're taking care of yourself, you can't truly take care of anyone else. And you can't be happy. And then I talk about the pleasure that comes from feeling that one is in charge of one's life, that it's going the way that we need it to go, that we are making progress. And sometimes progress takes a lot of turning around. It's not always just straightforward. I'm not saying that it needs to be just like an arrow and everything is perfect. Absolutely not. There is always things that get in the way, but when we keep our eyes on the prize, on our goals, it's much more easy to get back on track, to make sure that we are moving towards the place we want to be at. And that is a great feeling when we're able to do that. So I even recommend that you go to the identity scale and see where you fit when you are feeling good about yourself and that you're meeting your goals or going towards them in an effective way. There was one other point I wanted to bring up, and right now it just escapes me, but let me try to go back to it. And this is important, and I will review that in the workbook as well, that, one of the things that happens when you're not having your needs met and you're not happy in a relationship is that you can become manipulative or destructive in some way and punish the other person. And that is not useful, because if the other person is not able or willing to give you what you need, then you need to find someone who is. You can't just stay in a relationship which is not healthy for you. And of course, I see people who are having difficulties, and sometimes they do realize that it's not good for them, but they don't feel that it's okay for them to say, no, this is not for me. Whereas it certainly is okay for them to say that. As a matter of fact, it's their responsibility to get out of a relationship that doesn't work. So let me move on to the workbook and go to chapter 9. There we are, almost. It's getting skinny now. So in the workbook, I also want to remind you. So what I just did was talk a lot about theory, but in the workbook, I want to remind you that a lot of times it's you who gets into your own way. It's not just other people. And I don't really talk about that in the guidebook in this section as well as I would like to. But in the workbook, I take that on and I bring back something that you were invited to do in a much earlier chapter, to talk about when fear and anger get in your own way. Because when I say, when you're not in a good relationship, whether it's friendship or romantic relationship, a lot of times what gets in the way is fear or anger, and those are not constructive. I mean, they are constructive in telling us that something is wrong. We need to know that. But then what do we do with it? What do we do to overcome the fear? Maybe the fear of saying, no, this is not what I want. This is not the way I want it. How do we overcome that fear? What do we do to meet that challenge? So I'm using actually the same exercises I had much earlier, just for two reasons. One, to remind you of all that. It's so important. But two, to see if it's any different from maybe you have hopefully conquered some of the fears that you were talking about in an earlier chapter, and now you're facing different fears. And when I go get in the way, so again, this is very important to know why you're angry, what's really hurting you. Anger is a result of fear or hurt. And what do you do with it? What are you going to do with it? Who do you get help from? Where can you get help? And again, you've seen this before, but it's important. And maybe now it's more clear that you can maybe get the courage to get the help you need, even if it means going to a foster home or something like that. So, and in here, I also have exercises about how to manage interactions with others, which we just talked about, or I just talked about. There's no we here, unfortunately. Anyway, I just talked about how do you. So in this part 3, managing interactions with others, obstacles that you may encounter every day as you interact with other people. And these are exercises to help you kind of clarify whether other people are treating you the way that you want to be treated or not. And so some of the obstacles I'm listing, how do you know how to, do you know how to safeguard your dream and to share it with people you trust? Do you know how to avoid distractions that will throw you off your path? Do you know how to choose friends who encourage you to reach your goals? Do you know how to avoid people who discourage you or interfere with you? Do you know how to choose romantic partners that respect and encourage you? Again, what we just talked about. So, and then I'm giving example, and I ask you to rate them as to whether they are helpful or not helpful. And then it asks you, and these are not just theory, but have you experienced any of these things? And how did you handle them? What were the consequences? And maybe you can even say, how do you wish you had handled them? That's okay. This is the purpose of this, is for you to learn from your own experience. So looking inside again, this is part 4. So what do you do? What things do you do that move you towards your goals? And what things do you do that take you away from your goals? And this will take some honesty with yourself that, in order to face those different possibilities. And then finally, well, not finally, but in this part, what do you do to help your friends towards their goals? What do you do that may be sabotaging them? You know, then be demanding something that they don't really have time for, and pressuring them, maybe trying to manipulate them by telling them how much you care and how much you need them. We call that manipulating. If it is something that, is not really good for them, but it's what you want. So actually in the chapter, I talked, this is not up to others to satisfy your needs. It's up to you. And of course, we always need things from others, but the right way is to ask if they're willing to do it and leave them the freedom to say yes or no, and not try to manipulate them or pressure them or even bully them into doing what you want them to do. I think you all know that it's not a positive thing, but it's not only a negative thing for them, it's also negative for you. You can attend to your own needs. You don't need to depend on others. So, and then the next part is looking out for number one, what do you really want for yourself? How will you actually satisfy your needs without demanding that others do it for you? What are your needs? What can you do to attend to them as best as you can? And finally, denying your needs is harmful. So let's say you have a friend who's pressuring you to help them with their homework or help them with this or that. And you don't really have the time because you need to study for your own classes. But you don't want to say no, you don't want to displease them. Maybe you're a little afraid they're going to say, well, I won't be your friend if you don't. We all go through that. And so how do we handle it? And, of course, someone who says, I won't be your friend if you don't give in, is not really a friend. I think by now you know that. So how to not allow yourself to be manipulated, or even if you're not manipulated, to just be overly generous with others. You have a friend who's in a lot of difficulties and who is having a hard time, and you spend hours with them listening to them and their problems, which you can't really fix. These are really adults who need to fix. But you then kind of give up on your own needs. You don't do your homework. You stay up late listening to your friend. This is not particularly healthy. The best you could do for your friend is to convince them to go to a counselor and maybe go with them to the counselor or go to her parents or his parents or whatever he needs to do, but with an adult. Teens cannot solve each other's problems. That's an adult thing. So it is important to take care of you, even if your friend is very upset. You can say, look, I'll go with you to the counselor tomorrow, but I need to take care of me. And people really respect that. As a matter of fact, your friend, if that's the case, your friend will understand that you're there for her or him, but you cannot do it for them. They have to do it. So that's the lesson for today. And it's a lesson that we can't repeat often enough, how important it is to do for yourself. That's number one. You're number one, and you need to take care of you. And you cannot really do for others as much as you may want to. And I was just thinking, I was giving a talk to parents about not doing for their kids what they need to do for themselves. Parents want their children to have an easy time of things at times, but it really doesn't help them to do it for them. It just teaches them that they can't do it. So, and it's the same thing with your friend. She needs to make, or he needs to make that step to go to a counselor or to go to the parents or whatever needs to happen, and not to just you. So I feel like I'm lecturing today. I guess I am, but we'll continue very soon, and I will look forward to the next chapter with you. There's only 2 chapters left. So this course is going to come to an end, and we will likely have a big gathering live event where you can come and ask questions or say anything you want about the book or about what you've learned or whatever you want to share at that time. Not personal problems, of course, because this is not therapy, but this is education, this is teaching. So I'm going to leave you with that, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.